This is a resume writing workshop, and we'll go over several things, but I'll be covering things, taking questions, but giving you some pointers from my background as a person who is looking for an opportunity, a career writing a resume, as well as a person who is an actual hiring manager, sorting through various resumes and things of that nature to hire my own staff at Booz Allen Hamilton, as well as through in the intelligence community. Next slide, please. Again, my name is Gilbert Jones. So what you can see is my contact information there from the Emerging Talent Group. I am an FBI employee on a joint duty assignment working at the Director of National Intelligence. I am the recruiting and hiring manager for all 18 intelligence community elements. And I believe you all are familiar with those. I won't go through them, but we'll cover them later. My contact information is there, but specifically my email address. Feel free to, if after this event, if you have a question, if you don't get that answered, to reach out and contact me. I do a lot of mentoring and try to do the mentoring and answer questions. There are several people in my career throughout my journey who have dropped everything they were doing to help me. So I believe in doing the same thing. So if there are questions or things that we discussed that you need to follow up on, if I can find you resources, that's what we're here for. Our goal is to continue to foster a positive work environment in the intelligence community and attract, a tech savvy workforce to come join us. I'll go to my career highlights just so you guys, for those everybody out there, because whenever I do these things, I'm always asking, well, why? The question does come up. Why would I listen? What do you know that I don't know? So I graduated from Michigan State University. Unfortunately, they are out of the tournament, so I don't have to worry about watching that right now. Uh, I was a member of the U.S. Navy, a submarine force. I'm submarine qualified. I did 7 deterrent patrols on the ballistic missile submarine. I worked for General Dynamics Electric Boat Corporation as a senior environmental engineer. I have actually worked on a submarine design team. There are parts of the Virginia class submarine that actually have my name, and I was involved in the actual design on. So I've had a blessed and outstanding career where I've got to do some amazing things with some amazing systems. I was a senior associate at Booz Allen Hamilton, where for 20 years I was an executive there, and actually spent a lot of time as a hiring manager in that position, where I was the person that by the time your resume got through 4 other people, when it got to me, I was in a position where I could make a decision where I was going to do the interview or hiring. I then transitioned to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I've been Assistant Unit Chief for the Occupational Safety and Health Group, Unit Chief for the Counterintelligence Data Exploitation, where I actually led the Edward Snowden data exploitation. I have actually seen all the damage and what was transpired there. And my last job in the Bureau, I ran the FBI's Foreign Investment Unit. Some of you all may be familiar with some of the work that goes on when you're recently. I think one of the last things I looked at was I was involved with the government's decision with TikTok, that platform. And then I took a job with the Director of National Intelligence. Now, some people real briefly will look at this and say, well, bummer, man, you can't keep a job. You're always bouncing around. I kind of look at it differently. I left as a unit chief of the Foreign Investment Unit, and even in counterintelligence, I left 2 of the best jobs in the Bureau because as a leader, I believe other people below me should, not below me, other people who aspire to leadership positions should be afforded a chance to get some of the good jobs. Most people in their lifetime will never get to run teams as good as I've got to run, specifically with the Foreign Investment Unit. I wanted somebody else to have that opportunity. I did that for 3 years, and I don't believe leaders should park in specific roles for too long uh, without allowing their people that they're mentoring and trying to bring along the opportunity to get those jobs. So that's why I'm at the Director of National Intelligence. I wanted to give some other colleagues an opportunity to run the Foreign Investment Unit. It's an outstanding team, and what it covers and what I got to do, making decisions on global communications and things of that nature. Someone else deserved a chance to do that. And that's how probably a little different than what you're used to hearing from a leadership standpoint, but I believe moving around and allowing other people into leadership positions is a good thing. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, today's learning objectives. I want to help us all understand the purpose and value of a resume. Now, when I say help us all, I say that because every time I do this or listen to these type of events, I learn something. I'm not done with the job market. I still write a resume. I can take a 33-year career and get it down to one page, or I can turn it into a volume, but nobody would read it. Okay, I want you to understand the differences between a government and a private sector resume. How to make your case. What does that mean? Uh, Everybody can, writing resumes, you can go on the internet and do your research and you can see how other people make their case. But every time, when you look at those, as we say make your case, it's make your individual case, not the case that you saw somebody else make. It's like everything else, everything has to be tailored to what's best for you. The value and content of a cover letter. A horribly written cover letter will easily push you in a position of where you're going to go into that infamous stack of papers that nobody ever reads. And some resume and cover lessons learned. Just, some lessons learned. You guys will ask me some questions, hopefully, and we can talk about things that you've seen on cover letters. You'll pull up a cover letter that you'll see on the internet or somewhere else and say, oh, that's a great cover letter, but when you start looking at it, it doesn't fit your needs. Your cover letter needs to fit the needs of the position or the opportunity that you're looking to attract attention. A well-written resume and cover letter are going to get you the interview. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the purpose of a resume. It's going to provide a summary of your skills, your abilities, the accomplishments, and it's all going to do this in a succinct manner. This is the piece of paper that people are going to get that's going to prospective employees, and they're going to make a determination of whether they not you fit into their culture or whether or not you're going to even get an interview. It represents you when you're not there. Now, one thing that I'll share with you is the resume, when it comes in, it goes to a recruiter. Recruiters don't do the hiring. There are actually hiring managers, 3 or 4 people up the line. So when you're doing a resume, the purpose of this piece of paper is to get each of those 3 or 4 people, specifically this happens in the government, those 3 or 4 people to move your resume to the next person so it continues up the line. You need it to be in a position to where it gets the hiring manager. The recruiter actually gets a resume, and this recruiter may be focused on 20 opportunities in, say, the FBI under 4 or 5 different job categories. So what are they looking for? The first thing they're really looking for is, does it meet the criteria that they've asked you to follow? I'll hit on this later. Most of the time when you're looking for a specific opportunity in the government, they will tell you exactly what they want and how they want it. Anything you do to deviate from that will allow them and put them in a position where they don't have to pass it on. Uh, there are several times where you're looking at thousands of resumes, and sometimes you're just looking for reasons not to move them forward. So I'll hint on this again. We want to make sure that you're following the instructions that they were given to you by that specific agency. And sometimes each agency or each element has a different criteria or a different way you want to put it. So you want to make sure you're following that. If they say 1-inch margins, stick to the 1-inch margins. You don't have to try and get cute and try and move that out because you want to get more information in there. Even if you need me to look at it, I'll look at it and show you where you can cut some words. But follow the instructions, because this is what represents you when you're not there. You want to get through to those other 3 people, those other wickets, to get your resume to the person that's going to actually make the hire. And just to hammer this home, if you send in a resume for a data scientist, it will probably go through 3 or 4 people before it gets to the actual program manager who needs a data scientist. But to do that, it has to be well written, no spelling errors. It has to have, the keywords they're looking for. Some companies use what's called a Resumix, or a computer program that goes through your resume and will search out keywords to see if you have the right keywords in there to advance your package forward. So you want to make sure you do that. But just always remember, a well-written resume will get you the interview. And I'll tell you why I focus on the well-written resume near the end. I have an interesting philosophy about the actual interview. Next slide, please. So federal resumes are unique to the federal government. There are also private sector resumes, but all have to be written extremely well. Again, they represent you when you're not there. Some of you have probably, tried to call or send an email to a specific recruiter or something and ask them questions. And unfortunately, you're just an email address or a person asking them questions. And so you need to get something in front of them that represents what you are talking about. So there are three types of resumes. There is the actual, there is the, okay, there is the chronological, and a lot of you are familiar with the chronological. It kind of lists, and specifically when you're in college, that's usually what you do. You list your experiences and things based on, this is my last job, this is a job I did before that, this is what I did in high school, or this is what I did in college. A functional, which I really like, specifically for college students, organizes your skills that you've had in a job or in a school. For most part, a lot of times you'll look at your resume and you say, well, I don't have any past job experience, or I have anything to put on it. Your experience is your school. Being in school is a full-time job. So that is your job and that's what you've done. So there, if you need help, I'll help you working on ways to highlight the classes and the things that the studies and the things you've done in school to demonstrate that you have the functional skills to support an intelligence community agency, a federal government, or even a private sector. So that's the real value of a functional. Now, a combination kind of describes both. I have a slight chronological listing of the opportunities you've had, as well as things that you've done functionally. But depending on what they're asking for, if they're asking for a chronological, then that's what you want to follow. But if you are allowed to write, a functional specifically as younger, just graduating college students, that's what I think is going to really help you, because again, if you're looking for a job as a procurement specialist, or if you're looking for a job in geospatial or things of that nature, then you want to be able to highlight those functions you've done in school that will allow anyone to say that, oh, this person's got the bona fides to work in ArcGIS or ArcView or something of that nature to help at the National Geospatial Agency. Again, combination actually helps there also, but I really like the functional for college students because you are allowed to really dwell on things, especially if you're in a master's program, to be able to talk about or highlight, a large, capstone project you've done that is actually answering the question or solving the issue that one of the agencies is actually focused on. I recently talked to was mentoring a person who had actually written a thesis on, some effects of COVID and how they would handle that from a large scale company, or large scale for a large scale company, which was really of value because right now that's one of those things that a lot of companies are going to be focused on. So this person was able to write a functional resume about the things that they did in that specific study that actually highlighted some opportunities and some ideas that the company was very interested in solving. So that was positioned them to get a career, get an interview, and hopefully get a job in that specific area. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. With the resume, you really want to sell yourself. And what do we mean by when we say sell yourself? I look at this, and this actually also applies to when you're interviewing, because the goal of a resume is to get you the interview. Situation action, results, and impact. What does that mean? That means that in a couple of sentences, usually in two, I would like for you to be able to describe an action, describe a situation, describe an action, explain the results, and highlight the impact. For instance, if I were doing this for one of my positions at the FBI, my situation was I led the environment, safety, and health analysis for the FBI's response to Hurricane Sandy as the environment, safety, and health manager. The results were I had no recordable injuries, and my impact, you wouldn't go through each of these like this is the impact, that's the results, but as a complete sentence, it would be I the result. I led this specific effort and for Hurricane Sandy, having no recordable occupational safety or environmental incidents, and the impact was allowed us to recover from Hurricane Sandy. Uh, we did the bureau. The bureau actually we lost 26 vehicles that were flooded out. The town, I don't know if some of you ever saw any of the pictures. It was, we had 26 feet of water in one of our buildings that we had to get out. So that was a big type initiative. But I want you to be able to describe, even when you're doing things in school, what the situation, your actions, results, and your impact. And that's important because people can, when we're doing interviews, when we give people uh, tasks and things like that, those are the type of things we're looking for. Knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSAs. You will see these type of things on some of the job announcements, specifically in the government that you're looking for. So knowledge represents a body of information which you are applied to the performance. And I'm reading these are actual definitions that we use. Skills are measurable and observable and acquired through learning or training. Abilities are enduring, innate, or acquired talents which can help a person do a job with or without formal instructions. So there are times where you'll be working a resume or applying for something, and they'll ask you what your KSA. You may have heard this. What did you have to do any KSAs? There's a specific way and a methodology you want to use to write these. You want their keywords and key things you want to have in here. If you're applying for a data science job, you want to discuss the knowledge that you have of data scientists, then the skills that you had that are measurable, which classes or what abilities or what metrics have you used that are people can see as far as your abilities in those specific items, what software, uh, is there a specific speed you can do things? I mean, these things, KSAs are very big also in the language when you're applying for positions which require foreign language skills and things of that nature. So with these, specifically with KSAs, you want to follow the instructions. There are most government opportunities and career opportunities will provide you specific instructions on how to complete the actual application. It's pretty well laid out there for you to follow, get your information in a specific format, and get it in. Again, if you need me to look at that or any of my colleagues, we can help. I usually take what the government is asking for, the intelligence community is asking for, and there's a way to compare what you've written with what they're asking, and then to determine which words you want to weave into your KSAs or your write-up, so that anyone looking at it can see that you are using the terminology or using the words that they're looking for. And you also want to be able to do that because, again, it kind of sets you apart. It demonstrates that you also did some of the research, because one resume is not going to fit for 10 different career opportunities. You're going to have to tailor your resume or your thought process for each of those different opportunities. A resume for a budget or a forensic accountant looks a lot different from an opportunity for a procurement specialist. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what they're asking for and what you're applying for. As a quick side note, I also caution you, and this is so you're not using up valuable time on your own, because your time is precious. That's the only thing in the world you can't get back is your time. Try to stick to applying for jobs which your background meets. If you're trying to apply to be a forensic accountant and you are doing engineering, you're an electrical engineering background, you're probably not going to get any attention paid to your resume because they're going to be looking for specific accounting type things. So, we have a term in the government, try and stay in your lane, at least from an entry standpoint. Now, if you got into the government or into a career in the IC and you're an electrical engineer and you wanted to shift to forensic accounting, there's a good opportunity. There are probably opportunities or things that lend itself to allow you to be able to do that. But from an entry level standpoint, when you're coming out of college, you want to highlight and try and stay within the realms of what your background and what you can speak to from an educational standpoint. That way you're not using your valuable time and investing your mental capabilities into something that probably has a low probability of happening. Next slide, please. Attributes versus skills. Attributes are qualities you may naturally possess and you have the benefit you in life that in your work. So good examples: your initiative, your motivation, engagement, self-awareness, and things of that nature. And when I always talk about this, and it's not what you want to tell the hiring officials, it's what they want to hear and how they want to hear it. If you read most government announcements, they will tell you exactly what they're looking for and what they need. Uh, I always say this about, politicians or things, or even when I do interviews, I tell people this before we start the interview. I need you to answer the question I asked you, not the question you want to answer. Resumes are the same way. I know we have all of these items and all these things we really want to tell or we really want to demonstrate, but I need you to focus on what it is I'm asking you for. And why is that? Because in an interview, if you don't answer the question, I can't score you. If I ask what 1 + 1 is, all I need to know is that you know that it's 2. Then you can add on some more things at the end. But if you don't answer 2, then my score sheet is going to say 0. You didn't answer the question. Resumes are the same way. Answer the questions they're asking or the career information they're asking for, not the information you want to give them. They're looking for specific things and they cannot score you no matter how overqualified or how great you think you are when you're doing that. If you don't answer their questions, it's not going to move forward. Remember, we're trying to get through the wickets of several people before it actually gets to a manager. So that's why I say answer the questions they ask, not the ones you want to answer. It's really important. Skills are things you have acquired through education. Again, we go back to the functional resume and things of that nature. These are where those skills are going to come in. And when you're writing about some of the opportunities, writing about your things you've done, you want to use examples, communications, teamwork, time management, response to pressure, your technical understanding of specific areas. These are things you can use when you write your resume up. And where do you get these words from? That's where you do your research. And I I say this to my children, your generation's blessed where there's so much information available at your fingertips when you're working on the internet. When I was growing up, I actually had to go to the library, pull the Barron's book, and do a bunch of research. There was this stuff called microfiche where you had to look at newspaper articles and things, and all this was done manually. So the information for companies, almost every company, every government agency, every IC agency is out there, and you can research and see what is the National Reconnaissance Office, what do they value? Is it response to working under pressure? What is the Department of Treasury looking for? Are they really big on communications? So you do that research and you put those words in, because when you do get to the hiring manager, they're the person that can make the decision. They're aware of all of these things that are the goals of a specific organization in the government, in the IC. And they can tell you, and they can see that, this person is working or doing things that align with the goals that we have. So if you're applying for, a position with the Army's National Ground Intelligence Center, research and see what's important to them. What are they doing? What is, for lack of a better term, what is keeping their employees up late at night from an information standpoint? So if you've done some really interesting or novel work on how to identify uh, troop movement or something for that nature, or that's similar to that, using geospatial analysis, you know, that's something that is very important to them, and you've learned things like that through the research. So when you're looking at what skills you want to highlight, do some research into the specific, or call me or call somebody. We can help point you in the direction of where you can get those words and skills and make sure that they're woven into your specific write-up. And you can use these things even if you're only providing, a background of what you've done in school. All of you have done communications, teamwork, time management, response to pressure, technical understanding when you're in college. That's just part of being in college. You have to be able to do these, be good at these things to succeed, and you all have. So there are ways to highlight that. And some of you also have had other jobs while you're in college or even before. Uh, so there are ways to highlight those. And again, also these words can show up. These examples of these type of words and things like that can also show up in your KSAs when you're writing those. So you want to make sure you highlight that. But if you take nothing away from this slide, again, it's kind of going back to following instructions. It's not what you want to tell them. It's what they want to hear and how they want to hear it. They will tell you exactly how that is and how you should phrase it. And you stick with it. Once you get into the agency, then you can change it. But to get in to the IC and get into whichever opportunity you're looking for, I want you to focus on what it is they're asking for. Even if you have to send a clarifying email to the people that are requesting the information on what do you mean by this, or what does that mean. Again, email me, ask. You all have resources, tons of resources at your fingertips. There's no reason why you can't ask one of us and we won't help you. Next slide, please. Cover letters. Sometimes you're asked to write a cover letter. Now you'll go on to, you can go onto the internet and you can look and you'll see these. There are tons of cover letters. And sometimes you'll try and mimic them, or you'll take, things away, and you'll try to, okay, I'll write mine. I'll basically just change the name. Again, this is another place where you do your research. Research what is going to grab that specific person who's going to read it. Again, cover letters are also the same thing. They will go through the same, your cover letter with your resume will go through the same 3 or 4 people before it gets to a hiring manager. So we're writing this to get to the hiring manager, but I need to have certain things in there. Key elements of a cover letter are contact information, find out the proper spelling of the person you're trying to send it to. I can't overstate proper grammar and spelling. There is nothing more insulting. Well, there may be one thing, like calling Arizona State, University of Arizona, Arizona State, but there aren't many other things as insulting as spelling the person's name wrong, or their title that you're trying to get a job from. So you want to do the research and you find that. You're going to have a good opening paragraph, a middle paragraph, sometimes a second, and you're going to have your closing. So what is going in these paragraphs? That's where you're going to briefly state your case of why you. Good opening paragraph is a description of yourself, your a quick synopsis for your educational background and any specialties you have that are focused on that specific opportunity. I've written several cover letters, but each time I've applied for a job, I've had to write a different cover letter for that specific agency. I don't have a standard cover letter that's one size fits all. And that's because each person or each element was asking for something different. They wanted something specific in the cover letter, and I needed to make sure it got in there, and I needed to make sure I could make my case for why they should hire me in less than a paragraph. That's what you can do in a cover letter. If you can get them to read part of the cover letter, you're going to get them to your resume. Now, I will share this also with you all. I don't know if you realize this. I'm sure you've heard it before. The average, when I was doing resumes, the average time I would spend with a resume and a cover letter was easily less than a minute, maybe 45 seconds. You're sitting there with a stack of these things, and it's even different when you're on a computer. You're almost doing a word search. You get these things in, so there's not a lot of time. So a cover letter that is an entire page, 2 pages long and they're not, no, I'll be flatly honest with you. There's slim chance that anybody's going to read all of that. You've got to make sure you state your case early and often and get them through that cover letter and get them into your resume. And you've got to do that with no errors.
Gil, can we take a quick question?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so we've gone over some definitions, and you've laid a good foundation of knowledge, skills, and attributes, and all that. And you made a mention of a process, the wickets, right?
Yes, sir.
I think what's in a lot of people's minds right now is, are we talking about USA jobs versus IC careers, and what is the process to get through the automation wicket, the keyword wicket, first of all, to even be looked at? Because that's a concern, I'm sure.
Yes, the keyword wicket. There are various systems to use. One of I know I'm familiar with is Resumix. So that goes back to when we were talking about when you look at when you're putting your resume together, that the actual announcement, whether it's an intelligencecareers.gov or one of those sites or USA Jobs, they're looking for specific things. So when the system goes through and looks at if it goes through electronically, then it's looking to pick out the words that they had in the announcement. You could take a job announcement that's, for instance, looking for a data scientist. So one of the keywords it's going to be looking for is data. Another thing will be some of the specific tools. I don't know off the top of my head specific software tools or things that are in there. But if the announcement's asking for your experience with, for sake of argument, your experience with Excel and Microsoft Office, that needs to be in your write-up. You need to put that in there because it's going to search on those words. So if you look at a USA Jobs or almost any government announcement, there are specific words in there that it's going to search for. The secret sauce is being able to go through the announcement and pick those out. And I'm not sure how to explain that without sitting there doing one, because I've actually, if I can do that, but it would be more than willing to help anyone. So but to answer your question there, to get through those wickets, you want to make sure that you have the words that they are talking about in your resume. And you're not talking about parodying exactly what they say, but if there's a lengthy discussion we want to make sure that, that on environment, safety, and health, or OSHA, or data exploitation, there are specific words that you want to make sure that you weave into your write-up, because that's how you come out at the other end on it with a good score, by identifying what they want and weaving it tactfully into your narrative. And you'll be very successful. And again, I'm more than willing to help anyone who has an announcement look through one, and I can send you back the highlighted words that I would make sure that were highlighted to go through an electronic scoring system.
Thank you, Gil. Appreciate that.
Okay. Before I continue, any other questions? Are we on so far? Okay. Next slide, please. All right, winning words. Uh, Action words, descriptors, and results. When you write these things in your resume, these are type of words that, when you get to the hiring manager, they're looking for. Did you motivate things? Did you expand a specific capability, or did you improve a process? Descriptors are things about, were you accurate? Was it profitable? So all of these terms and things need to actually come out in your write-up. There are ways to specifically fold these things in to make sure that they are addressed. You'll see if you've seen other resumes and things like that, and you look at, specifically some of the write-ups they do, you'll see these words analyzed, motivated. Because as a hiring manager, those are the type of things you're looking for, not that, worked on a team that produced a study for how many birds are in a tree. Okay. That's that doesn't really tell me exactly what we were analyzing. Did I motivate? Did you motivate? Was somebody else going to use that? Is there any value to that? But when you do things, even if you're working you're listing talking about a retail type position, did based on your results or your actions at that location, was there growth? Did you expand it? Was it expanded? Were you allowed to do things that increased or enhanced the experience at that place? Those are all things you want to list and, as outcomes and things of that nature. So you're focusing on making sure that a person reading this can see what a great person you are. Sometimes also the question will come up: was it a one-page or two-page resume? There are there's the easy answer for that is you will focus on what they ask you for. A lot of times they won't. Sometimes you're not limited. Sometimes you are. I've got a 33-year career, and I can get my whole resume down to one page in 10 font. But again, I can also scale it way up. But it just depends on what someone asks me. And how do you keep it to one page? You work with people to determine what's really important or what it is they really want to know. Again, we all have very diverse backgrounds and things of that nature, that there's so many things about us we want everybody to know. But to get a specific opportunity, there's only certain things I need to know. So if the question comes up, one page or two page, or what are they looking for? It's your first default is, what do the instructions say, on USA Jobs or Intel Gov, and what is it they need to know about me? What are they asking? So that's how I would, focus on those type of things, where you're looking at whether or not you're going to, how long it should be or what should be in it. Okay. Next slide, please. These are kind of lessons learned, do's and don'ts. Now, we go through these, you'll see these, and they all sound, when you're reading through them, they all sound, oh yeah, I knew that. But if you go through your resume or your cover letter, really focus on whether or not you did these things. So quantify by using data points and numbers to demonstrate success. What does that mean? Uh, if you did a study sample with 100 study people, 100 people, in your analysis, make sure you talk about that. People are looking for numbers and results and statistics and things like that to back up the information that you're writing. Never, ever, there's no excuse for submitting something with a spelling or typographical error. There's too many systems out there. There's tons of software, but better than that, they're your colleagues. Always have somebody read it. Never position yourself to where you're trying to respond to an announcement at the last minute. That's a recipe for errors, and you might stay up all night getting it done, but if you've got an error or you didn't have any time to have somebody look it over, that's just one of those, it just might not work. Active verbs to describe your work, talk about yourself, talk about what you did in an active. Be concise and truthful. Review the submittal to ensure that you do, and again, as I talked earlier, build in enough time of your schedule to make sure that you've got it reviewed and you get it right. Use your professors, use anybody that you can do that with. Uh, these are always my favorites. Don't inflate or make up skills to bolster accomplishments. You either did it or you didn't. Garbage man is not a sanitation engineer. Uh, a person working at the cashier isn't a loss prevention specialist. Don't inflate or bolster the things. Avoid cliches, jargons, and common abbreviations or acronyms. Now, we in the government are notorious for this. We will talk in 3 letters and whole sentences, and people tune us out quicker than you can blink. Uh, Make sure you spell things out. Everyone doesn't know what, you know, NHS, National Honor Society is, or, specific fraternities or things like that. Spell them out. Make sure you leave enough room to spell them out. I always tell people to avoid mental gymnastics. I shouldn't, as a person reviewing your resume, you don't want them to have to think about what you're trying to tell. They won't, trust me, they won't spend the time on it. You need to be very direct. 1 + 1 is 2. Just be very direct with what you're trying to get them to understand. Do not use the same resume or objective for every job. It doesn't fit. A resume for the National Security Agency may not look like the resume for the Department of Treasury or for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Make sure that you're looking at the instructions, what you're providing, and how you need to tailor it. Don't include all of personal data other than your contact information. If when they need additional information, they'll contact you. And do not mislead employers about your GPA, your skills, or your abilities. There are ways to find that, and these things always come out in the wash, specifically in the intelligence community. Myself, I go through a polygraph every 5 years. I went through one to get into the Bureau. And it was interesting. One of my questions on my polygraph was, had I ever cheated in my college career? And almost fell out of my chair, but luckily I could answer no. But I say that to say that specifically in the intelligence community or anywhere, there are ways to find answers to all of these things. If you get hired into a job because you misled someone by your skills, about the skills you had, and you get into the position and they're expecting you to be able to perform, it's not going to end well. It's not fun to be in a position that you can't perform in, and it's not fun to be in a position from a manager standpoint to have people in positions where you thought they were going to be able to perform, and you have to stop what you're doing to go back and actually train them for something you thought you hired them that they had. So it's kind of a two-way street. So you want to make sure that you really highlight your skills and things of that nature. uh, I will tell you this. I don't think everybody will tell you this. I did not have a high grade point average coming out of college. I was a grossly average student, uh, but it did not hurt me to not have my grade point average on there. I know several of you on the call have extremely high and really good grade point averages. Those are the type of things that are going to get you recognized and noticed. But if you don't, if you're an average student, being a good writer, selling yourself well will still get you the opportunities. I've done quite well as an average grade point average, because at this point in my career, it doesn't matter. But coming out of school, that is something that's looked on. So you want to at least you want to try and keep yourself above a 3.0. But if you're not, that's not the end of the world. You continue to work and the opportunities will come. Next slide, please. Now, this is an interesting thought, I guess, for me, that I usually like to share with people. The cover letter and the resume are to get you the interview. If you get the interview, the job is yours, unless you talk the employer out of hiring you. Now, what does that mean? I'm sure you've all had that professor in college in your classes that tell you, okay, today's the first day of class, we all have 4.0s, and you do. Everybody's got an A or 4.0 or 5.0, depending on skill you're on, until the first test comes up. Whether you end that class as an A student, it's completely up to you. because you had 100% when you walked in the door. If you worked your way down, that was something that you did. Resumes, in my opinion, cover letters and resumes are getting an interview is the same thing. If everybody I've called in for an interview, I had planned on giving the job until something happened or someone said something or someone did better in the interview and talked me into keeping them versus the other people. So if you can get yourself to an interview, I would like for you to think of the opportunity of the job as yours, and that your goal is to go into that interview and talk them into keeping you. Because we as hiring managers and recruiters and things of that nature do not have the time just to interview people because, well, we just want to do this because we don't have anything else to do. There are so many things to do in a day. So we're really looking to interview the people that we want to have the job. So again, if you get the interview, I want you to think of it as the job is mine and I'm going to talk them into keeping me, no matter how many other people are interviewing for that specific opportunity. Sell yourself. Your resume got you through the door. Close the deal with the interview, get the job, have a great career in the intelligence community or whichever community, whichever career path you'd like to take, and you go from there. Uh, at this point, if there are questions and things, or Craig, if there's some other things I missed or we want to cover, and I know we went through a lot of this things very quickly, and I know we got some other people that are doing a panel, but if there are questions, I can take them, or if people want to contact me individually, you can provide my contact information. I'd be more than willing to help anybody I can through this process to make sure that we're getting our people, whether it's in the intelligence community or anywhere they would like to be, in a position where they can have a great career.
Yeah, we have some
Definitely.
questions coming in right now. So I'll pose Barbara's question. She's a freshman and she's seen some internships that require 1 year in school before she applies for the job. What's your advice?
Well, you get that 1 year experience, but you reach out to those, even though if you're freshmen and they say you need 1 year. So I don't know, Craig, do you all have the internship placemat that was done? A lot of the really good internships are become available starting in August of the previous year in the intelligence community because of the security background.
Right.
So if you're looking for an intelligence agency internship in February or March, you've missed a lot of the windows. So what you really want to do if you're a freshman going into your sophomore year starting in August, you can contact me, or there is that placemat that we have that was done. We call it placemat, that has several of the agencies that have internship and co-op programs that you can apply for, but they open up back in the August, September timeframe when they start collecting and taking applications, and they close usually in late September because we have to go through a lengthy selection and background scenario, and we want to make sure that they're in early enough. So you're in the right place and the right time to be asking. If you're a freshman and you're looking at it from a sophomore standpoint, be looking for those things to become available in August timeframe so you can apply.
Okay, and we, with that, we have some internships that are coming on that are on a rotationary basis. So with the IAO program, we just struck a partnership with Customs and Border Protection that was there already, but now it's so codified that there is a process, and you can basically apply all year round. And the contact information is available in the dead drop that we put out this last time. Okay. And also DIA's internship is due 1 April for next summer. And there's a lot more internships that were in the dead drop. If you go to the websites, you can get more information on those internships. But right now, Meg Gladowski has a question about cover letters. Meg, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thank you. So when you were discussing cover letters and you were doing the paragraphs, the opening, the middle, and the second middle paragraph, is the layout for that kind of tend to be the opening, like you were saying, is the education, who you are? Is the middle more focused towards like what they want to hear? And then the second middle is almost as if like why you're a good fit? Or is there like kind of a better guideline for generalization?
I would say a combination of those. Your opening is who you are. You're opening who you are, your quick background. When I would do my second paragraph would be why you're a good fit for them. So what can you weave in about them that corresponds to what you can provide them? So again, that's where you're gonna, the second paragraph is may or may not be necessary. Sometimes you can do it in three lines. You don't want it to be too long, but you want to introduce yourself, and then you want to introduce the fact that you understand what they need and why you can provide it. So if you're looking for you're looking for something in cyber, for sake of argument, you've introduced yourself, you're you graduate of this University of Arizona, you've got a degree in X, Y, and Z, and then your next area you're going to be talking about the importance of cybersecurity and what you've done in that and how that corresponds to their needs.
Gil, it
Sometimes
sounds
it's
like
easier
you're
for me to
speaking.
write that out.
It sounds like, Gil, you're basically speaking to a truncated version of your KSAs and how they actually answer the calling instructions or the position
Yes.
instructions, right?
Yes, sir. That's a good way of putting it. Yes. But also realize that all resumes don't have well, they have them, but they may not be called KSAs.
Yeah.
KSAs is usually almost a unique government term. If you went to a resume for an announcement for, say, Google or on Indeed for a different area, they wouldn't be. They're there, but they're not called KSAs. They maybe key discriminators or something like that. But once you figure out what those are, yes, you're correct, sir. That's highlighting those in a brief way in a cover letter, in a second paragraph after you've introduced yourself is a good thing. And then in your last paragraph, you want to close it out and close a deal. Something in that last paragraph that's going to say, wow, I want this. I want to read the resume. I need to read the resume of this person.
Yeah. Mega, is that good to go, or do you have
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. Thank you.
But other questions, if you, I can send you, or you can email me. I think I have cover letters I've written, and I could tell you the actual the job I wrote them for, and you would see why it worked for that specific type of thing. So
I think that'll be very helpful, Gil.
I could do that.
Here's a question on just insiders versus outsiders. This the perception that if you're not government, you didn't work in the military or didn't have any kind of experience, that there's an insider or outsider perspective. And the question is this: is there anything, any wording in the structure of the resume that can take this individual to an interview if they don't have that background? And this is making the assumption, individuals making the assumption that there is some sort of insider and outsider view by hiring committees. I'll turn it over to you, Gil.
I'll be honest. That's human nature. I'm not going. Again, I said don't play mental gymnastics. I'm not going to play mental gymnastics. And well, there are biases. There are biases in hiring. But for college students coming out, there are very few biases with respect to hiring. I mean, if you've been in college for 4 years and you're trying to come in from the quote outside, you don't have any military experience, or there's no danger that you don't know anybody in the intelligence community. That's where you're completely evaluated on what you're bringing to the agency or something of that nature. I'll be honest, as you go further in your career, there is a lot of older. I mean, when I got into the FBI at the age of 48, and that was I was an anomaly at that time because the questions did come up. Well, who did you know? I didn't know anybody. Well, how'd you get in? I have no idea. So that I won't sugarcoat that there is a potential bias, but as a college student or the younger you are in your career, that is something that's a lot easier to overcome than when you get older. And some of that bias as you get older isn't that you don't have the military experience. It's that you don't have the sometimes it's that you don't have the experience that they're looking for, or there's a fear that you may not be trainable for what they specifically need. But from a college student standpoint, you're in the driver's seat. Believe it or not, we want you guys. We want you guys sometimes more than you want us. We need a diverse, tech-savvy staff to get into the next century of IC leaders, and we're looking to places like University of Arizona for that talent.
So Gil, we have a couple more questions. So
Please.
one is, do you have any experience, question in regards to military experience with resume building? This is from Casey Dennis. So Casey, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, it's so I'm at hitting 20 and so I'm in the Coast Guard. So I'm a chief in the Coast Guard up for
Awesome.
warrant,
Thank you, sir.
for warrant officer. But
Congratulations.
one of my things with it is I have a lot of friends who are getting out, and the biggest things they tell me is like, hey, listen, rank doesn't matter when you're doing all this stuff. But something that I've always thought about is, I get it. Most of the military doesn't, or most of the outside doesn't understand, and I'm fine with that. But being a chief, and I looked at the rest of the world, when I made chief, everybody's like, oh, chief of police, chief of fire, chief of staff, all those things. But putting that tag in front of something, because I've been a personnel security officer, I've been a commanding officer, we have a unique, what we do now in XPO, but right now I do inspections for multi-million-dollar search and rescue units. And
Yes.
if I put chief of something or chief personnel security officer, I'm not lying. But I mean, does that seem to would that seem to carry more weight in the out game for like an outside entity? Because I'm in organizational leadership and I'm looking for human factors analysis and stuff. And that's kind of where I'm gearing that into the intelligence community. But
Okay.
I'm looking at for career building. If I don't pick Warren up, I may be retiring here shortly. So,
Yes, sir.
Well,
I honestly, yes, chief will resonate because of what you said after it. So, you've got, take your resume. You've got your resume and it's going to say chief organizational strategy officer. It's not just going to say organizational strategy. Chief, I mean, in any environment, chief of something lends you anybody to understand that this person led or was in charge of something. So I do believe it resonates. And again, I did 6 years on a submarine. I was a machinist mate, second class. When I got out of the military, I was proud of my support, but I was able to write my resume and able to have the actual opportunities that allowed me to be in leadership positions as a second class petty officer, that I could do that. So I believe you in your scenario, you can write and be proud that, of being a chief of the things that you've done, but the key things are going to be what you put after that title. That's what you're going to be graded on.
and that's kind of what I was thinking. And I've told people, because even if I made Master Chief, let's say, I always joke, they'd be like, oh, you say Master Chief, and they're like, think Halo. Or if I make Warrant Officer, they're not going to understand that. So I said I'd always put chief of this and then put that whatever I've done. So I just wanted to make sure something like that. And then obviously, GPA I think is good. And I was reading your do's and don'ts, but I just want to make sure that wouldn't, yes, I'm a chief of, and I've done these things. I'm not lying. I just want to make sure that
Right.
tag, and that's what I've been telling my people too, when they're getting out,
Yes.
make it right towards it.
Yes.
Real quick, Gil, would like to just
Thank you.
interject
Mhm.
with Casey. Casey, send me an email, cnazareth@arizona.edu. We'll get you linked up with a TAP program. They've got websites where you can actually show what you did on your rating report, and then how that transfers over to actual language that's active, that is inclusive of KSAs, and is representative of the impact you had on formations and people from a talent management and human capital standpoint. So send me your email. We'll take care of that. Let's go on to the next question.
Can you put that in? Can you put it into the?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
So Luis Granados asked, what's your advice on seniors trying to break into the cybersecurity field without experience? I'll be graduating in the fall, and this will be a career change for me, prior Army, and have no IT experience on paper. Seems many agencies want a few years of experience, and you see that in some of the calling notices for positions. They're asking for some cybersecurity experience skills. What do you think about that?
First of all, if I were going to, again, that kind of goes back to apply for things that you believe that you can get. Unless if you've got no experience and they're asking for 2 years experience in cyber and a cyber background, for lack of a better word, you're going to get your feelings hurt because you're going to submit several resumes to get in, and they're not going to pay attention. So my advice would be focus on how you can get into an organization with the skills you have, and figure that you're going to go in and do, for sake of argument, you're going to be a procurement specialist for a couple of years. That's going to be your entree. Figure out your way in. Once you get into the agency or the area you want to be in, then you get them to help you move around. I mean, and I'll give you a quick example. When I left Booz Allen Hamilton, I'm a subject matter expert for designing weapon systems in an environmentally sound manner. When I joined the Bureau, I led the Environment, Occupational Safety and Health program. I don't have a cyber background, but because I was in the Bureau and demonstrated some capabilities and qualities, I wound up leading a data exploitation unit, which was all cyber. So use what you have to get into an organization. Then once you get in, if cyber is what you really want to do and that's where your passion is, let that organization help you and work you through the wickets to get you into a cyber position. But otherwise, if you're applying for cyber and you don't have any of the capabilities or qualities they're looking for, they're not even going to entertain getting you in, because you won't get far enough down the path to show your passion that I really want to do this. Will you please teach me?
Just to follow up on that, Gil, you really made a good point about the functional resume. And
Yes.
I know in the cyber program here at U of A, they do a lot of project work, practical exercises, hands-on. It's a Bachelor of Applied Science. So if you can capture that in your functional resume, say, I did this. And then
Yes.
you can apply for a certification through SANS or open source investigations or cyber threat intel. You get those certs and those translate over to functional capabilities as well.
Yes.
So just
Yes.
because you don't have experience, right, you actually do, right? I told Meg Gladowski and a couple other students that when you write a paper for a class, that's experience writing and communicating an intelligence topic or a thought at a strategic,
Yeah.
operational, tactical level, right, Gil? You can
Yes,
write
sir.
it. Yeah, capture
Yes,
that.
because your job, your employment for the last 4 to 5 years was as a student.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're looking
You
at.
know,
You're great being graded on that.
Gil, to this slide, if you can see it, it has an Intel Community Center for Academic Excellence logo on there. Can you guys
Yes,
see
sir.
that slide?
Yes.
And so what that means is if you have meet requirements to be an IC scholar, you're setting yourself apart. So the IC knows you're a student. If you don't have military experience, that's okay. You're an IC scholar if you meet those requirements, and more to follow on that as they come out. But IC Scholar gives you preferential hiring through the government application process. So Gil, one question on that though, and
Yes, sir.
I can ask Aaron too later, but is that preference being awarded now with students with letters that students have? You know, in the usajobs.gov or iccareers.gov, how do they showcase that?
I
They're an
know
IC
they're
scholar?
looking at ways to do that. I defer to Aaron on that.
Okay.
But as a reward for how we're looking at it, and I think you guys may be aware of the April event where we're looking to get the work with the ICCAE students to get all the agencies available so we can do a hiring event. So we're looking, I know Mike and Aaron are working with ways on how to flag that, or how that anybody can instantly see that, specifically in the IC and the intelligence community. But another thing we're trying to do is make sure that we are getting these students up front in front of the intelligence community. These are people that have been working and understand our environment, based on the training they've had. And there should be, whatever we can do to give that some preference or differential treatment, we're working towards doing.
Okay, thanks, Gil. We have to wrap up, Gil. I'm
Yes, sir.
really happy that you came and joined us. Students, I hope you found this at least helpful. But the best part is that Gil is making he and his office available to you. That's the absolute most critical thing. I mean, you don't see that often, and we're thankful for that, Gil.
Yes, no,
so that's
gladly.
the email in the chat, Gil Jones, Jeeb at dni.gov. And then we're going to pause here at the moment. We're going to take a couple minute pause. We're going to pause the recording as well. We're not going to record the next session, but we're going to turn it over to the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. They have quite a team here. And so I'm going to pause the recording here and turn it over to G.A. Rhodes. And they brought 2 Wildcat alums with them, thankfully. And you could speak to them about their experience. So pause, and then we're going to show this video here. All right. Hello, this is Craig Nazareth. These slides were presented by the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency.
Ms. G. Rhodes. The contact information is in the slides if you'd like to reach out to them for more information. This portion of the briefing was not recorded at the request of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. You can flip through the slides and they're here for your consideration. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Juliana, and I work as a peer coach with Student Engagement Career Development. And today I'm going to be telling you about the Wildcat 5, which are 5 tips to help you be career ready. So, starting off a bit about SECD, which is the department that I work for. SECD stands for Student Engagement Career Development. And as you can read here, our mission is to inspire and prepare students and graduates to create lives of opportunity by fostering career readiness and success. This means that we understand that finding your dream job or finding your dream career is a process, and we are there to help you through any part of that process that you need help with. Next, a quick overview of the 5 tips that we're going to be going over today. Number 1 is about online profiles. Number 2 is about discovering and confirming your career interest. Number 3 is about building your resume. 4 is practicing your interviewing skills. And 5 is about networking. So, starting off with online profiles, the first profile that I would recommend to all students that you start with is Handshake. So Handshake is a online career platform similar to LinkedIn, other websites like that, and it's completely free. And as a U of A student, you already have an account. You just need to go to arizona.joinhandshake.com and sign in with your net ID and password, and you are logged into your account. So why would I recommend you start with Handshake over a different job search website? That is because Handshake is specifically geared towards students or to recently graduated students. And this means that the jobs and the experiences that you see on Handshake aren't going to be asking for somebody with 10 plus years of experience, with 6 years of experience in the field. and you're going to be prepared for any of the jobs that you see on there, or you can be prepared for them by the time that you graduate. Here's a list of some of the different employers that you can find on Handshake. It's not just small employers, it's not just the U of A that has jobs on Handshake. Everyone from Bank of America to Disney has jobs on Handshake or different experiences. So I would really recommend that that's where you'd start off. And there are also a lot of internship opportunities on Handshake, as you can see here. Any industry that you would want to get involved in, there will be something on Handshake for you to look at. The second online profile that we'll go over is LinkedIn. So having a strong LinkedIn profile means that you are going to check all of these boxes that we have on the slide here. So starting off with a professional photo, that can be a headshot, something where you are in professional dress and smiling. The next thing would be to have a good headline, something that's descriptive of what you're currently doing or what you're seeking for a job. Any education that you have being listed on there, as long with your experiences. The next part about LinkedIn would be getting recommendations. You can endorse people's skills on there, and that's one of the really good things about LinkedIn is being connected to different people, maybe asking them to endorse your skills. Endorsing some other people's skills would be something we would recommend. And of course, you can always connect with U of A alumni on there, and you can use their alumni tool to see where people with similar majors to you are after graduation. So the second tip is visiting LifeLab for help. So LifeLab is part of SECD, and it offers drop-in career guidance. You don't need an appointment to go to LifeLab, and anything that you need career-wise for help, you can go to LifeLab for. They can help you with connecting to different programs to gain skills or to understand your experiences and what you would want to do for a career. LifeLab is there to help you. And here's some information about LifeLab. If you are looking for the hours, it's on our website there. They vary from day to day throughout the week, but they're open Monday through Friday. And they are currently still open, so you can meet virtually by dropping in with a peer educator. The second part about career exploration and developing skills would be to book an appointment with a peer coach. And peer coaches are, that's what my position is. And peer coaches are, unlike LifeLab, you have to book an appointment. You can do it through Zoom, email, or phone. And we can help you, similar to LifeLab, anything that you need help with career-wise, resumes, cover letters, any other application materials that you might have for jobs, internships, job shadowing, that sort of stuff. And we can also connect you to different resources that we think might specifically help you on your career path with any skills that you might want to learn, internships that we've heard about that you might want to apply for. And here's the link to book an appointment with a peer coach. You would do that through Handshake. And a last bit about gaining skills and experiences. These are just some of the different programs that the U of A has, specifically SECD hosts, that you can help you gain experiences. All of these programs up on the board you can find information about at career.arizona.edu, and it is a mix of different programs. Some of them, like leadership endorsement, will give you credit, will give you an endorsement for the experiences that you already have, and other programs like Build the Skill will help you gain skills that you might not have experience in yet. So the third tip we have is to build your one-page resume. So a resume is a really good marketing tool. It's a way for you to sell yourself to your employer, to any potential internships, other experiences that you're trying to apply for. It should list different experiences, skills, abilities that you have that make you qualified for the position you're applying for. And as it says here, it's a snapshot of your achievements. If you have any honors, scholarships, you can also add those to your resume. And overall, your resume is a professional document, so it should look that way. And it is the tool to help you get an interview with a company. So your resume is also a really great tool to help you build your profiles. Going back to tip number 1, if you upload your resume to Handshake, it will automatically fill out your profile with all of the information from your different experiences that you have listed there, different skills you have listed there. And even though LinkedIn doesn't do the same thing, you can still copy paste the descriptions that you have already written on your resume and worked out there onto your LinkedIn profile. So tailoring your resume is a very important thing to do. It's good to have a general resume just on hand, but you should tailor your resume for whatever specific experiences you're going to be applying for. Your tailored resume should be 1 page and will include the most specific information that is relevant to whatever you're applying for. And if you ever need help tailoring your resume, just come into Life Lab or make an appointment with a peer coach, as we talked about earlier, and we can help you with tailoring your resume. So the 4th tip is practicing your interviewing skills. And so interviewing is something that you really have to work on in order to get good at. And so a really important question to be able to answer is, tell me about yourself. With tell me about yourself, you're going to hear that question in an interview, most likely, or even at a career fair, you might be giving your answer as an elevator pitch. So it's important to have an answer prepared. This slide has a quick little fill in the blank that you could use if you're starting from scratch, if you've never given an elevator pitch before. This is a really good place to start. And of course, practice makes perfect. So I would always recommend that you go into Life Lab and for a mini mock interview, or if you want something more specific, you can book an appointment with a peer coach. By booking an appointment, you can say what specifically you're interviewing for, a specific company or a specific type of job, and we will help you and make a mock interview with questions that are the most similar to the questions you would be seeing in that interview. You can also use Big Interview, which is a website that has a lot of good tips and interview questions on there for helping you practice as well. And number 5, the last tip we have for you today, is networking and applying for opportunities. So you need to network is a really important part of applying for jobs and being in the any professional field in general. And so you want to take advantage of all of the employer events that we have on campus, including any career fairs, any times that we have companies coming in to talk. We always have it listed on our website, on the SECD website. So I would say just checking in on the website every now and then is a really good thing to do. Coming into Life Lab or booking an appointment with a peer coach, we can also give you any personal recommendations we have for you about programs that we know that might help you network or other opportunities you might want to apply for. And again, of course, you can always network virtually on Handshake or LinkedIn, any similar websites. And the biggest part about networking is that it gives you access to the hidden job market. So the hidden job market is referring to all of the jobs that aren't posted online anywhere or advertised. A lot of the jobs that are actually available on the job market, they don't fill those positions by advertising them online. They fill them through referrals and recommendations from people that they trust. And this is why it's really important to make sure that you're networking. And of course, here's some other ways that you can go and network around campus. We're going to be having our career fair coming up very soon. Saying yes to any informational interviews that you might have the opportunity for. We are always having different employer handshake events throughout the year. And once again, check the SECD website, check Handshake for any dates or upcoming events that we might have. And of course, any lecture events that you're hearing about from your professors or from your college, whatever department that you are in, keeping an eye out for any opportunity to network and saying yes to all of them. And so that brings us to the end of today. I would just like to say, once again, here are the different tips we have for you and a quick overview. Again, career.arizona.edu is student engagement career development's website where you can find any information you have for career-wise or internships you can find there. And arizona.joinhandshake.com is where you can build your Handshake profile. Thank you.
Main questions from the Handshake and LinkedIn approach, Gil, is the social media presence. You know, what would you say to students that want to work for the CIA or DIA or do covert ops, human intelligence collection, technical intelligence? What would you say to those students to manage their lifestyle?
Well, first thing, thank you for the presentation. The first thing is a lot of the IC agencies are on Handshake and LinkedIn, so we're using those. But with so you can find things there. But with respect to a personal Facebook page and things like that, again, I have my own. You just when you join this type of community, you have to realize, as some of you who are in the military join, you are giving up. You're giving up some of your freedoms. You are a part of a community, part of a family, and you represent the entire IC. I don't place anything on my Facebook page that I wouldn't say to someone at work, because again, I represent the FBI no matter where I go. So if you're looking on your pages and your things in your social media, you send your application. I'll be honest with you. One of the things we do is we'll go look at your postings. What are you writing now? What are there things or items that we need to be worried about that you're publishing on those specific sites? So you want to be careful, and you want to watch what you're saying and how you're saying it and who you're saying it to. That information is watched, is monitored. As a member of the intelligence community, there are people that they're not, that's not their job, is to sit there and watch me. But if I say something that I should not have said or write something I should not have written, I will hear about it and could potentially lose my job. So be careful. If you're trying to get in, go look at what you're doing. I'm not saying go run back and try and erase it. Once it's out there, it's out there. But you just want to be careful. And if you did write something, you want to be able to explain it. If you're going through a background scenario with one of the intelligence agencies, it's always easier to bring things up to them at first, on the first go round, than for someone to ask you, what did you mean about X? So, have fun out in social media. That's what it's for. It's great. Just be careful what you're doing. And, I always, when I was growing up, my parents would always say to me on these type of things, is it something that you would be embarrassed for your parents to see or your grandparents to see? And, that's how I usually gauge it. So just be careful what you're writing. It will be discovered. It will be found. And there are people, when you're going through these, and if you have done something that you're not proud of, if you do get an opportunity to apply an intelligence agency, you just tell them, and you go from there. But you can't erase what you've already done. But just be careful. And again, I'll also, if I'll throw this in also, because it does come up, things about drug use. There are several agencies where you are disqualified for 3 years if you've if you as a high school senior have smoked marijuana, there are several agencies where for the next 3 years, you can't even apply for an internship because you couldn't answer truthfully or pass a polygraph test on that question. So I just tell people, just be careful what you're posting, be careful what you're doing, who you're interacting with, and how you're doing things at parties if you want to work in this community. And there are other ways, lots of other ways to enjoy yourself and have fun at parties and social media.
So we have a hand up from Colin. Colin, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I had it's related, even though it's not resume or cover letter question, but with the way COVID has changed the way we apply and interview for jobs, a lot of the traditional advice you would get, like, oh, going into an interview, make sure, you look nice, you're dressed for the job, make sure you have good posture, be respectful, all the usual advice you would get before going into a job interview. What kind of advice would you give someone in the environment where you're in now, where almost everything is over the phone or video call? It kind of changes the way the interviews work. So how would you recommend that?
I'll start off. This is Gil. I'll be honest with you. I've done several, even before COVID, I've done interviews over the phone and things like that. I personally, and this is just me, I will dress up into what I would be wearing in a in-person interview because I want to feel and look the part of that. If you're doing it on a camera with someone through, say, HireVue, who does virtual interviews, again, you want to look your best. That, while you're looking at it, sometimes you look at it as a standpoint of, well, I'm just on video. No, that's what they see of you. That's how you're representing and presenting yourself. So you always want to represent yourself in the best light fashion and best light possible. And it kind of even goes back to what you're doing at school. And I'm sure you've heard this from some of your professors. Don't ever give me a product you expect me to fix. So when you're interviewing, whether it's in HireVue, virtually, you want to look your best just in case the camera pans to something, you slip, or, and it makes, for me, it makes me feel better. It made me feel better to interview over the phone in a suit, even though they couldn't see me. I just felt like I was there and I was on my game. But that was me. Others may have other opinions, though.